Measuring time through the ages. Early humans divided time only into daylight and night. The days were for hunting and nights for sleeping. But as people began to feel the need to coordinate their actions, they needed a unified system of keeping time. Over the centuries, people have come up with some creative methods of timekeeping. Imagine a world without clocks. How would you tell the time? Think of at least 3 ways in which you could tell the time. Let us find out some ways in which people calculated time through the ages. The shadow clock or the sundial. The earliest shadow clock was a simple stick placed in the ground which allowed people to keep track of time by watching the position and the length of the shadow cast by the sun. As time went on, a small device called a sundial was used. The Egyptians made the first sundial. A sundial works by tracking the sun's movement. A blade casts a shadow that points to a marked number on the sundial's face. The problem with the sundial. Can you guess what could be the problem with sundials? They didn't work at night. The water clock. One of the most precise timekeeping devices of the ancient world was the water clock or the clepsydra. Water clocks work by measuring water that drips from one container to the other. The water clock could be used to measure the hours even at night, but the water needed to be filled up. The ancient Greeks and Romans built impressive towers to house their water clocks. The Chinese too used water clocks. Problems with the water clock. What do you think could be the problem with water clocks? Water would flow more slowly or quickly when the temperature changed. The hourglass. The inventor of the sand clock is unknown, but the sand clock or hourglass was commonly used in ancient times and is still used today. It's made up of 2 glass bulbs, one atop the other, with a narrow opening between. Sand runs from the top bulb into the bottom. When the top bulb empties, time is up, but it may not necessarily be an hour. Have you ever used an hourglass to play a board game? The mechanical clock. In Europe, during the 1300s, people began to make mechanical clocks that ran on a system of weights and springs. Huge mechanical clocks were used in churches and monasteries to announce prayers and services. Galileo's observation. Scientist and mathematician Galileo made an amazing contribution to the world of time. The year was 1581 and Galileo was 17. He was standing in the Cathedral of Pisa, watching the huge chandelier swinging back and forth from the ceiling of the cathedral. A cathedral is a big church. He noticed that no matter how short or long the arc of the chandelier was, it took exactly the same amount of time to complete a full swing. The pendulum clock. The chandelier gave Galileo the idea to create a pendulum clock. While the clock would eventually run off energy, it would keep accurate time until the pendulum stopped. The problem with the pendulum clock. The pendulum clock depends on the force of gravity, which varies very slightly from place to place. That means a pendulum clock tells time differently at high altitudes from at sea level. Pendulums also change length as the temperature changes, expanding slightly on warm days and contracting on cold days. Quartz clocks. Quartz clocks are battery powered. The battery sends electricity to the quartz crystal through an electronic circuit. The quartz crystal oscillates at a precise frequency, exactly 32,768 times each second. The circuit counts the number of vibrations and uses them to generate regular electric pulses, one per second. These pulses can either display time as numbers or drive an electric motor that spins the hands. The atomic clock. Atomic clocks are the most accurate of the timekeeping devices. They measure time by tracking how long it takes for an atom to switch its energy state from positive to negative and back again. Calendars. The actual counting of minutes and seconds requires some complex procedures and machinery, but the tallying of days and months is based on the position of the sun and the moon. Different cultures use different kinds of calendars that organize days, weeks, months, and years. Try to find out about the following: the Gregorian calendar, the Hebrew calendar, and the Islamic calendar. Find out which calendar is used in your country. Is it different in different states? Find out.